Welcome in to the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. I'm your host, Brad Crawford, joined by my two guys and two former players this week, Emory Hunt and Cardale Jones, as we break down some of the biggest games across the country here in week 5. Fellas, it feels like Separation Saturday is upon us in college football with several top 25 showdowns on the schedule, and we're going to do our best to pick winners over this next hour for our viewers. Let's start with this weekend's biggest gambling headlines. We're going to head to Athens, Georgia first, where Alabama takes on the defending SEC champion Georgia Bulldogs. This is the most important SEC game to date. I think you guys would also agree. Alabama's Jam Miller and Tim Keenan, defensive tackle there. Both those guys making their first starts of the season after 3 or 4 weeks rehabilitating injuries. Emory, I'll start with you. How beneficial will that be for the Crimson Tide having those two guys out there for Kalen DeBoer against the Bulldogs?
Is huge, especially when you talk about Jam Miller and what he brings to the table as a runner and also catching the ball out of the backfield. We saw Kevin Riley do a solid job as a freshman, but Jam Miller is a difference maker. And when you have that type of balance in the backfield, it helps out your quarterback situation. It helps you control or dictate the pace of the game. And we spoke about this back in week 0 when Florida State played Alabama. We talked about how not having full strength right down your battery on defense kind of affects a game versus a mobile quarterback. Now, Gunnar Stockton isn't Thomas Castellanos, but he can also scramble and move. So having your full strength right there in your defensive tackle spot makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, Alabama has relied heavily on Ty Simpson the last two starts at quarterback against ULM and Wisconsin. Two big wins there. The ball has barely touched the ground when Alabama has called passing plays. Ty's pretty much completing everything. But this rushing offense without Jam Miller so far, rated number 102 nationally. See some of the numbers right there. Georgia has won 33 straight games at home. Alabama's won 9 of the last 10 against Georgia. And Cardale, you're a former quarterback, man. I'll come to you. Does Ty Simpson have to have a brilliant performance Saturday night to help Alabama in this Georgia winning streak?
No, I don't think a brilliant performance, but I think you need to have a solid performance. What's really going to help his performance is having a guy like Jam Miller back who can take the load off of those young running backs and that young running back room that we see that's historically, Alabama has always been in the top 10, probably the top 5 in rush offense with guys like Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy, and the list goes on of historical great running backs there. And usually when you have a great running back or a great running game, it opened up things downfield. It opened up things downfield for guys like Ryan Ryan Williams, who's kind of been subpar to this season. So having Jam Miller back, I don't just expect a good game for Ty Simpson, but freeing up some things for Ryan as well.
Yeah, probably doesn't hurt that Kalen DeBoer and the offensive coordinator there, Ryan Grubb in Tuscaloosa, saw what Tennessee was able to do to Georgia a couple of weekends ago. Joey Aguilar, big game there. So moving to our CBS game of the week at 3:30 Saturday, there's a couple streaks on the line, and that's Ohio State at Washington. Ryan Day and Ohio State, the top-ranked Buckeyes, go to an unbeaten Huskies team. Ryan Day, fellas, is 48-0 against Big Ten teams not named Michigan or Oregon during his Ohio State tenure, and he's 6-0 all time as a head coach coming off an open date. So can Washington as an 8.5 point underdog, can they cover in this game? Can they keep it close? This is the second time in the last 10 years that a number one team in the AP poll has been a favorite of 9 points or less against an unranked opponent. It's only happened twice in the last 14 to 15 years. Emory, we'll start with you, man. What would it take for Washington to keep this one competitive in the fourth quarter and not, face a double-digit deficit early in this game against the Buckeyes?
Firstly, I'm glad Cardale Jones is on with us here because I have a question. Why y'all do Grambling like that, bro? Like, what was your South State doing? Y'all could have called it. Y'all had to do Grambling like that. But I will say this, all seriousness. This is one of the matchups I'm excited to see because it's Washington that looks like they're going through resurgence. They look really good this year. I love the combination they have with Jonah Coleman and Damon Williams back there at quarterback. So they have something going for them. They're playing with house money. And I'm not a big home and away guy. Like I said, we won 9 games in 4 years I was in college. So it didn't matter where we played, right? We was going to lose. So it didn't matter if it was home or away. But when you watch how they play in Husky Stadium, I don't know where the camera is set up there, but man, when they make a big play, it feels like the stadium shakes. It's almost like the NCAA game with the stadium pulse
Um,
meter that they have, right? So Washington has a unique advantage, home field advantage for whatever it is worth. And I just think that Ohio State's offense hasn't really blown out yet, like we used to see Ohio State, especially at quarterback. So this is an interesting game. I do feel like Washington can keep it close.
Yeah, if you've been inside Husky Stadium, the sound is kind of trapped at field level there, and it is insanely hard to hear if you're an opposing quarterback. Speaking of Buckeyes, their quarterback play and wide receiver play, Jeremiah Smith's quietly having a great year. Nobody's really talking about him right now, despite being inside the top 10 Heisman odds. Damon Williams, quarterback for Washington, also having a good year, and Jonah Coleman, the running back there. Washington seems to have figured things out. You see Jeremiah Smith there. The numbers for him are good right now. Leads the FBS in receiving touchdowns since last season. I do worry a little bit here if I'm Washington because they go man to man in defense. And there's some injury issues to worry about at the back end of that secondary. Cardale, put yourself in Julian Sayan's shoes for a moment. You know, how anxious should he be making his first career road start when he's got security blankets like Jeremiah Smith, you've got Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, you know, all those weapons to throw to this weekend. If you're Julian Sayin before that game, are you confident that you can kind of go out and post a big road win?
Yeah, I'm extremely confident, not just because of having the guys that you just named, and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis, and the list goes on, even from the tight end and the receivers and running back spots as the weapons around you as a young quarterback, but the depleted, injury-prone back end of Washington's of the Huskies secondary. I got to be excited about that as well. First and foremost, I'm excited about any defensive backfield going up against Jeremiah Smith because I think those 50-50 balls are more like 60-40 balls in his favor. But this is a great opportunity for him as a young quarterback going on the road. Very tough environment, very loud environment. And also, I think this will be the first game Ohio State offense will feel the pressure of another team's offense, not the defense, another team's offense who have just as much explosive capability with Williams and Coleman and all the weapons that they have on the other side of the ball as well to go really toe for toe for you in a shootout.
You can probably say it's a good thing Ohio State's coming off an open date because Matt Patricia had extra time to prepare for some of these weapons they're having to deal with. Last, fellas, we'll make it quick here. Final headline of the betting weekend. Moving forward at Oklahoma, John Mateer injured at quarterback, had a wrist surgery. We don't know how long he's out, probably going to miss 1 or 2 weeks. And Cardale, you can start here, man. I'll come to you. Is it time to fade Oklahoma's college football playoff hopes if John Mateer, let's say he's out for the Texas game at Red River coming up here next month?
You know what? It'll get very close, and not knowing how serious or what's the time period of his recovery because John Mateer, Oklahoma went all out this past transfer portal window. I almost said free agency, what it really is, and locking down pretty much the number one player in the transfer portal. And we already seen in the short 3-4 weeks of the season what his energy, what his play, what his ability has done to the Oklahoma team, not just their offense, but that team. I compare him and given that energy and that vibe and playmaker ability of a Baker Mayfield. But let's not get this twisted. Oklahoma goes as far as John Mateer is able to carry them. Still have a great defense, but we still got to score some points. And you looking at the stretch that Oklahoma is coming on to after really 2 weeks of bye week, this bye week and then next week versus Kent. It's almost another bye week. But they jump into Texas and they jump into, I think, 5 of the next 6 opponents are ranked opponents in the SEC. If John Mateer is out for an extended period of time during that stretch, it'd be an uphill battle for Oklahoma to be relevant. And when you're talking about coming out the SEC and the college football playoffs, because I don't think it's much star power at that quarterback position waiting in the wings to really pick up where he left off at.
I was going to say the good news. Yeah, go ahead, Emory.
I'm about to say we talk about Texas we kind of seen Arch Manning already. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is that a big game now? Like, so I will say this though, with the losing John Mateer is how well he plays situationally. That in and of itself is worth his weight in gold. And so we have to see how that looks. But the defense and the run game can kind of keep them away, but we'll see how much they miss from those critical moments by not having Mateer there before I can say, hey, we should fade Oklahoma.
Totally agree there, man. Coming up after break, we will bring you our thoughts on the game of the week, Oregon at Penn State, Battle of Unbeatens in Happy Valley. Keep it here. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. And we are in for quite a weekend here in week 5 across the top 25. Several games, including top 10 teams, a lot of playoff implications we're going to see over the next 24 hours or so. Let's take a look at the pick standings for the season between all of our guest pickers here after week 4. Guys, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but your boy went perfect last week, 7-0. Now I'm 13-9 on the season. You see there the numbers for all of us. 3-1 also upset of the week. That winning percentage, man, I need to find a new job if that holds up. I don't know if I can keep that for 15 weeks this season. But so moving on to our game of the week, man, this is like a granddaddy of them all type matchup. Oregon at Penn State, huge in the Big Ten, showdown at Beaver Stadium. Nittany Lions are a 3.5 point favorite with the total sitting at 52.5. I'll start things off here. Let's just be frank and call it what it is. I mean, Penn State's preseason schedule finally over. We're going to see quickly Saturday night how this team is prepared maybe to face another elite after wins over Nevada, FIU, Villanova. To be honest, we don't really know what Penn State is right now because of that preseason type schedule the Nittany Lions have played. Now, I know on the other hand, Oregon hadn't exactly played a bunch of world beaters either. Emory, I'll start over here, man. How difficult is it for you to handicap this game when it feels like the season is really starting this weekend for the Ducks and Nittany Lions?
That's a great question because I know a lot of times folks tend to focus on the matchups and who they play, but don't look at that. Look at how they played those teams on the schedule. And I do broadcasts over the weekend, so I had the Villanova Monmouth game, and so in preparation for Villanova, I'm watching their game against Penn State, and I'm like, man, Villanova dropped like 3 picks. Like it didn't look bad, and it was one missed field goal away from them going into half 13-6 as opposed to 20-0. So Penn State was kind of dragging their feet in that ball game. Juxtaposed to Oregon and what they did Oklahoma State. They laid the gasoline down and set the foundation for coach getting fired. So they played their games significantly different. They look how they are supposed to look, being ranked 6th in the country, as opposed to Penn State, who has all this talent. And they beat, soundly Villanova, but they also just didn't look the same versus other teams. It was a rather battle versus FIU as well. So Oregon looks the part. They're playing really well. The quarterback looks better. A lot of things keep coming up Ducks, in my opinion, when you watch how both these teams play.
You make a great point. I mean, Oregon's bringing sexy back. They're always good at the quarterback position under OC Wilstein. They've had staff continuity there. The last 3 cycles, Dylan Gabriel last season, Bo Nix, former Heisman finalist, he's doing well in the NFL right now. So they are developing talent at that position. Dante Moore, the latest signal caller to star for the Ducks. James Franklin mentioned this week, the Penn State head coach. It's going to be a spectacle Saturday night inside Beaver Stadium, 105,000 strong. We've seen videos all week, fellows, of students laying down on concrete outside Beaver Stadium in a pouring rain to be the first ones inside that stadium on Saturday. Cardale, you've played in some tough environments, man. How much of an impact will Penn State's fan base have on this one under the lights in Happy Valley?
A tremendous impact. There's no environment on the road like the whiteout at Penn State. And I know we talk about Oregon and being an unbelievable environment as a home field advantage. Well, this is truly another home field advantage right here in the Big Ten. And you look at the lack of experience of this team, especially the quarterback position, on going in a row across the country into an environment like this, playing against a really good team. We talk about the same things earlier with what is that Husky Stadium environment going to be like for Julian Saint. I think it's going to be very comparable for Dante Moore going into Penn State as well with the whiteout. So it's truly a +1 for those guys. And especially when you talk about so many people in that stadium, it's going to be extremely difficult to communicate for anybody.
Yeah, Dan Lanning, head coach at Oregon, he has 39 wins. He's only beaten one top 25 team away from home during his time with the Ducks. Emory, does Dan Lanning lose some cool points to you if he gets beat week 5 by Penn State after getting blown out, by the way, in the Rose Bowl the last time this program faced an elite team?
Not at all, man. That's par for the course. You fight enough fights, you're going to get knocked out at least some point in time, unless you're Floyd Mayweather, right? So you're going to get hit. I'm not worried if they lose this ball game. I think they're built the right way, and normally Oregon is built well on both sides of the line of scrimmage. What I love about this particular Oregon team is that they went kind of old school to where you have Dante Moore that was in your program learning behind another very good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. So now he steps into a turnkey offensive situation, and it helps give you confidence of what you can be potentially moving forward. So even if they lose to Penn State, this is still a playoff caliber team that can make a deep run in the postseason.
All right, it's time to make selection for this game between the three of us. I'll go first here. I'm going to go under 52 and a half. I know the total for this game has changed a little bit heading into kickoff. I just think both of these coaching staffs are going to play conservative, at least for the first half. And I know early in this game, you're going to have both DCs really throwing a lot at these opposing quarterbacks. You're going to have some conservative play calling because you don't want to be the guy that, makes that big time mistake, especially Dante Moore on the road, as Cardale mentioned, in a raucous environment in a whiteout. So I'm going under 52 and a half. Emory, which side are you taking here?
Can we trigger that graphic of what Penn State did in the last games versus ranked opponents under James Franklin and how they've done? Because I kind of lost track of what they've done in those matchups. But as I look at, man, I know that ain't Oregon that they lost to by 8 after they was favored by 3. Man, get Penn State out of here, man. Give me Oregon on the money line. I think Oregon wins this ball game. They just look better than Penn State, and I think that manifests itself on the field. They'll win this ball game.
Cardale, who do you like in this one, man?
I don't know who I like, but I am going to take the under in this one as well, Brad. Piggyback on your comments a little bit. I think this is going to be a tradition. And like Emory said, this is going to be like a Floyd Mayweather type of fight. Two heavyweights, no pun intended with the boxer thing, but trying to feel themselves way out in the first half of the game. And plus, you're going against both teams respectively have top 10 defenses in the country. So this is going to be a game they're going to feel each other out in the first half. I just don't see them scoring over 52 and a half points.
Hey, how about this uniform matchup, too? You got the classic Penn State against the mummified, glow-in-the-dark Oregon Digs. That's what they're wearing this weekend. Oregon's football account on Twitter this week teased some, like, glow-in-the-dark, foam-posite type cleats. Nike does it big at Oregon. They have the primetime spotlight for this one. I think it's going to be classic matchup. As Cardell mentioned, and Emory alluded to as well, this is a number 6 team going to a number 3 team, and the winner of this probably has a leg up in the Big Ten championship race alongside Ohio State in that top tier. So when we get back, it's time for Blitz picks. We'll each give you half a dozen picks that we like against the spread this week. Keep it here on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show. We're back on the CBS Sports College Football Pick Show for Week 5, and it's time for our Blitz Pick segment. Half dozen picks for your liking in Week 5. So you're not going to hear any bragging from me, but after a 7-0 record against the spread last week, I'm just going to let the numbers, fellas, do the talking on my part and try to keep up that hot streak this weekend. I'll start things off here. I'm going to look at tonight's game, Florida State at Virginia. This 6.5-point line is really stinky, so I'm going to go other side. I'm going Florida State team total under 34.5. Now, I know the Noles have been scoring a ton of points offensively. Tommy Castellanos, Gus Malzahn have it working right now on that side of the football. A lot of explosive plays. But this is different. This is a road environment in the ACC, and doing it on the road is a different animal against Tony Elliott, defensive-minded head coach. I'm not going to pick the upset here, but I do think the Cavaliers keep it close. Florida State team total under 34.5. Emory, what's your first blitz pick of the week?
I'm surprised you're still working here, Brad. And with a record like that, you're supposed to be somewhere on the beach sipping something sweet but strong, right? So I am going to go Ole Miss versus LSU. I'm taking Ole Miss straight up to win this ball game. I like how Ole Miss offense look. Now, granted, LSU's defense is really good this year, but, man, I can't trust their offense. They struggled versus Louisiana Tech. And I know La Tech had the best defense in Conference USA last year, but still, you're supposed to be big bad LSU. And Ole Miss defense doesn't have to be dominant. They just have to do enough, steal away 2 possessions, and get the ball back in Trinidad Chamberlain's hands. I am trusting the D2 prospect out of Ferris State to get things done against LSU.
Cardale, what's your first blitz pick of the week, man?
To piggyback on that, I got Ole Miss, and usually when games are this close in the spread of 1 or 2 points, it's hard to win a game by 1 or 2. So instead of the money line, I am taking Ole Miss to cover this game, and I think the deciding factor for me is sticking with Chambers as your quarterback because we've seen the turnover issues that Ole Miss had in the first few weeks with a young quarterback. And then, like Emory said, LSU has not been that impressive to me on the offensive side of the ball to really go into an environment like this and win this game.
My second blitz pick of the week. I'm keeping it in the SEC and going to South Carolina Saturday night. Gamecocks versus Kentucky. Gamecocks are spiraling with back-to-back losses. 0-2 start in the SEC is not what Shane Beamer wanted as a preseason top 15 team. However, I like South Carolina minus 5.5 to cover here. Opened at -7, down to 5.5. That means money coming in on Kentucky, but I like South Carolina's chances after getting embarrassed against Missouri last week. Cardale, I'll come to you. I understand that you're going to stay in the SEC with your second blitz pick.
Yes, I got A&M, not just any A&M, a really good A&M team, -6.5 over the Tigers. I think Auburn is going to still be licking their wounds from last week, not going into Oklahoma and having a family reunion with Jackson Arnold and beating those guys. And A&M is playing some really good football on both sides of the ball. So I got A&M in this one.
Listen, I'm going to the SEC as well, but I'm going with Vanderbilt taking on Utah State. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on how good Utah State has been this season. This is not last year's squad. They're 22.5-point underdogs. They are coming into this ball game with a very good running back in Miles Davis. I like the fact that they're coming in now. Vanderbilt probably starting to smell themselves a little bit, reading the newspaper clippings. This one's going to be a little bit tight than most people expect. So I like Utah State plus the 22.5 points.
Emory, newspapers are dead, man. You didn't get the memo?
True.
There's no
I'm
more
showing my
press
age,
clippings
man. Showing my age.
all over social media. It's dead. Anyway, so give me Ole Miss to beat LSU outright. I know you guys like this game as well. Right tackle for me is an issue for LSU, and just no consistency there. First couple weeks of the year, I worry a little bit about Garrett Nussmeier getting protected in this game. Ole Miss doesn't have a ton of dog pass rushers, but they got enough for me. I think that they're going to pressure LSU, keep them under the point total. Caden Durham, running back for LSU, a little bit banged up. Cardale kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier too, saying that LSU's offense has not impressed, and I couldn't agree more there. So I like the Rebels to win this game outright. Emory, what's your next pick?
I'm a big Troy Calhoun guy, and I love the fact that he's able to maximize the roster and the roster changes out there at Air Force. And they made the quarterback move to Liam Zarka, who I feel like should have been a starter from the beginning part of the season because he's a guy that can throw the football. It truly makes them a quadruple option, and that's going to be a problem in this ball game versus Hawaii, who turns the ball over at a high clip every game. And so you're giving the ball back to an offense that could drain the clock, but also hit the explosive play. Lay the 6.5 points with the Falcons.
Great minds think alike, and I'm going with that as well with Air Force 6.5 over Hawaii. I think when you add in that dynamic of not just a double option, like Emory says, now a triple option, it's hard to defend. Air Force easily 6.5.
Let's go between the hedges for Alabama, Georgia. We have not discussed this game enough. Big Daddy game in the SEC. Both quarterbacks have impressed me so far this season, but the Dogs, we mentioned it earlier, have won 33 straight games at home. I'm going to pound Georgia -2.5. I know this game's more important for Bama. I know it means more for Kalen DeBoer to not start the season 2-2. But this is a different animal, man. You go to Georgia Saturday night, it's tough. Cardale, I'm going to throw it to you as a former Buckeye. What's your next pick? Ohio State at Washington.
Oh, man, you got me there. Ohio State at Washington, I'm taking the over in this game. I think two dynamic offenses. Ohio State, this will be the best quarterback at DeMond Williams Jr. that Ohio State has faced all year, and arguably the best quarterback in the Big Ten. And his playmaking ability, his off-schedule playmaking ability will be the difference maker and will be a tall task for this really good Ohio State defense. I think we're going to see a potential shootout with two great offenses I alluded to earlier in the show. So I'm taking the total over on this one.
There's a chance for both Cardale and I to hit this one together because he's going over the point total. He says it's going to be a high scoring game. And for that reason, I like it to be +8.5 for Washington. I think they're going to treat this like their Super Bowl or their Rose Bowl. And they're going to lay it all out on the line and try to make a huge national impression for everyone to notice that Washington is back on the scene. So I like them plus 8.5 in this ball game.
We got one of us likes Washington plus the points. We got Cardale over. We got me under. That's going to be an exciting game Saturday. My next pick, man, I'm taking Duke minus 5.5 versus Syracuse. We're going back to the press clippings. All right. Syracuse coming off that big win at Clemson. However, insult to injury, they lost starting quarterback Steve Angeli there for the season. Duke is starting to figure things out after beating NC State. And I've won some bets on Duke this year. Darian Mensah's touchdown pass gets a late cover in this game. I like Duke to handle Syracuse, at least by a touchdown Saturday. Emory, what's your next selection?
No one's talking about the Arizona Wildcats. They're playing really good defense. They're not quite bear down Arizona Wildcats defense that we used to see, the Desert Swarm defense back in the day. Once again, showing my age, but I do like them in this tight matchup versus Iowa State. The Cyclones tend to play the same type of game every week. It's going to come down to the wire. Rocco Beck's going to make a play or two to win them the ball game, but in this matchup here versus a very good defense, Noah Fafita is playing well this year. Also, I take Arizona plus the points, keep it under that number.
Tennessee minus 7.5. Joey Aguilar is going to be too much for Mississippi State. Tennessee got it looking for a rebound game. They could easily be undefeated and potentially a top 5 team in the country if that kicker makes the field goal last week versus Georgia. But I got them coming out and kind of getting that bad taste out their mouth and putting a nice licking on Mississippi State.
I like that pick, Cardell, but I do have one little nugget from that game that I looked up this week. Mississippi State 4-0 against the spread, one of only 7 teams in the country to be unbeaten right now, ATS. So that's impressive there. Jeff Lebby has that program on the upswing, beat Arizona State a couple weeks ago, so maybe they can upset Tennessee there. My last blitz pick of the week here. It almost feels like a sucker bet at this point, but I'm going to stick with it. Notre Dame on talent alone, -4 against Arkansas. This is a must-win for the Irish. I've already taken the Irish out of my projected playoff for CBS Sports. You know, we talk about the playoff projection in bowls every week. I just don't think Notre Dame has it all, but they do have enough to win this game. Hogs are coming off 2 heartbreaking losses, fumbled it twice, had a chance to beat Ole Miss, and Memphis did not get it done. I like Notre Dame here, -4. Cardell, throwing it to you, man. You have a play on this game too, I think.
Yeah, I got Notre Dame as well in this situation, and not just talent alone. I just think Arkansas have a turnover issue, as we just alluded to. This team could easily be undefeated without these turnovers. But if a guy that I have faith in and turning the program around or turning the season around, it's the head coach Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. We've seen him for the last 2 years after suffering devastating losses at home. Now, but you're starting 0-2 is a little bit different situation now, and going on the road versus a really good Arkansas team. But I think -4 Notre Dame, I'm taking them all day.
I'm looking forward to seeing this Tennessee-Mississippi State game. I feel like the Bulldogs will treat this one like they did against Arizona State. And it's fascinating to watch how significantly better they are on defense this year. Last year, we saw them get blown out by Toledo. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. Now they're playing really stout defense, and their offense is carrying their burden as well. This is a tricky game for Tennessee. I like this one to be a lot tighter than expected. So I'm going to take Mississippi State plus a 7.5.
When we return, let's talk underdogs, the teams with some serious bite this weekend. We'll see you in a few. Welcome back to the CBS Sports College Football Prediction Show for Week 5, ahead of the sexiest weekend we've had so far in college football. Does anybody hear those dogs barking? It's time for Underdog Plays. All this talk, the entire show, has been about the top 15 matchups this weekend. Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia, a lot of good games. But there's a couple underrated teams that might be worth a closer look. Emory, Cardale, and I have those teams for you. I'm going to start here. I'm going Illinois at home. Take the points if you want to, but I'm going money line. Illini to give USC and Lincoln Riley its first loss of the season. We've heard Lincoln Riley fellas complain all week about this early kickoff time for the Trojans, who had to play the late game last week. Michigan State covered against USC last week late on that back door. To me, this one has all the makings of an upset. Illinois undervalued a bit after losing by, well, let's face it, half 100 points last week against Indiana, and then USC unbeaten. However, Trojans are just 2-4 in Big Ten road games since entering the conference a year ago under Lincoln Riley. So I'm taking the Illini here plus 6.5, and also on the money line. It's one of my favorite plays of the week, and I'm going to tag this too. I'm 3-1 on upset plays, so you might want to tail this one. Emory, who you got?
Well, listen, we talk a lot about coaches turning around programs. We speak of Clark Lee and what he's done at Vanderbilt. You look at Kurt Signetti at Indiana. You also think about when Dave Clawson was at Wake Forest, what he did with that program. In the FCS, Jim Fleming has done the exact same thing at Rhode Island. For a long time, Rhode Island was a perennial doormat. Now they're ranked fifth in the FCS, and they only give up 12.7 points a game on defense, and they face a Western Michigan squad that only averages about 13 points on offense. This is a very good Rhode Island football team that has a few pro prospects on the defensive side of football. I'd like them to go to Kalamazoo and beat the brakes off Western Michigan. So take Rhode Island plus 235 on the money line to knock out the Broncos.
We can always guarantee every week, Emory, you are going off the beaten path for your upset play. I like this. And wherever we can find that game, let us know because I will be tuning in to that one. Cardale, you're like me, man. You're looking at a Big Ten game as well. I had Illinois over USC. Let's hear it for your top upset.
You know what? I got Iowa. Indiana's coming into town off a really good win last week versus Illinois. I'm more shocked. I will be more shocked that the Indiana win over Illinois versus the Iowa win over Indiana this week. Mark Ganowski is playing really well in the way that they use him in a +1 run game. They have a way to really dominate the time of possession. And when you're talking about a team that can go on a 10-minute drive and get some points, either 3 or 7, and giving a team the ball back like a high-power offense in Indiana, you put them in a situation where they're kind of pressing and they feeling like, those 75 to 80 plays that they used to run it in a game may not be there. So now each possession is a little bit more critical. And plus, this game is on the road. There's only a few stadiums around college football that truly have a home field advantage, and Iowa is one of those environments. So I wouldn't be shocked at this upset. Actually, I'm just going to take Iowa money line flat out.
I mean, Indiana coach Kirk Signetti said it this week. Iowa is much better up front, and that's going to be a much more difficult game for us than the previous weekend Illinois was. So bulletin board material the next time Brett Bielema gets to face Indiana. Speaking of the Hoosiers, Francisco Mendoza now all of a sudden at one of the top of the Heisman list as a front-running contender. Emory, do you think Mendoza has an actual shot to be a finalist in New York? I know Indiana has some tough games remaining, but that performance against Illinois, man, 5 touchdown passes, a lot of it coming in the first half. That was an eye-opening output from Mendoza and that Indiana offense.
Unfortunately for him, he's going to have to keep up that pace because they're already trying to discredit the win he had last week against Illinois by saying Illinois shouldn't have been ranked that high. Whether that's true or not, that's still a Big Ten Power 4 opponent that he put up those type of numbers against. But if Taylor Green of Arkansas goes and upsets Notre Dame, we know Notre Dame is a high-profile program, and he does what he does as a dual threat level. There's all kind of challengers around Mendoza that could kind of knock him off that perch, but unfortunately he has to continue that unrealistic pace moving forward.
Yeah, I talked to several NFL scouts ahead of this season for 2026, and they kept raving about Taylor Green. Why is Taylor Green not in your top 5, Brad? Why is he not, ranked as a top 10 national quarterback? And outside of this start for Arkansas, Taylor Green has been great. I mean, he's thrown the ball well. He's rushing for 60, 70 yards a game. He's on time on third down, and he's 6'6", 240. So this is a quarterback that could give Notre Dame some serious issues, especially at home, because Sam Pittman is, let's face it, he's playing for his job. He's one of the hottest SEC coaches right now. Billy Napier on the other seat. And getting to Florida real quick, very fast topic on this Gators team. They're struggling right now. They have an open date coming up. Cardale, you mentioned Iowa. Iowa's passing offense ranks better than Florida's right now with 5-star DJ Lagway at quarterback. So that's part of the issue for the Gators. They can't get it done with the 5-star quarterback. He didn't play a lot this spring, didn't practice much this fall because of the shoulder. And then he had 5 picks a couple weeks ago at LSU. So Cardale, real fast, man, do you think DJ Lagway and this Florida team can get it back together to just get the bowl eligibility and 6 wins this fall.
You know what? Looking at their remaining schedule, I think it's a really tough uphill battle when you talk about bowl eligibility or really playing in a bowl that they really feel that they deserve to be in. It's going to be tough. It's no excuse for the lack of production for this Florida offense because their defense has really been playing really good over the last couple of weeks. I mean, really from the beginning of the season, and they really have been keeping these guys in a lot of these games as really a lot closer than the scoreboard has shown. It's just the inability to be able to sustain drives, to push the ball downfield, and to protect the ball. It has been their Achilles heel, and it's starting with the quarterback position and really with the play caller and really finding ways to manufacture offense for success because they put their defense in some tough position. I don't care who you are. You can be the freaking 2000 Ravens. If your offense is going to turn the ball over 5 times in a conference game and a primetime game, it's going to be tough to win for everybody, anybody.
The old Trent Dilfer versus DJ Lagway comparison. I love it. When we come back, we'll look at the sports line model for this week to get sports lines play of the week, and we'll give you our parlay play. One of the three of us is really hot this season. See y'all soon. We are back with the CBS Sports College Football Prediction Show for Week 5. Now we move to the Sports Line Model Play of the Week. Cal plus 6.5 at Boston College. This cover is hitting on 77% of simulations, and the model is 2-2 during the 2025 season. This is a crucial game for Boston College, whose bowl hopes might be in jeopardy if the Eagles fall to 1-3, but the model says play Cal and the points. And for my favorite segment of the week, fellas, it's time for parlays. Look, I'm hitting on what? 3 out of the last 4 weeks parlay. Last week we banged one for plus 780, and it was a 4-teamer. I know Emory has, I think it's a 7-teamer this week. I'm going to go first with mine since I'm winning here. I'm going to do 4-team. And I know Notre Dame -4 is a play that's probably going to be public heavy, but I do like the Irish to go on the road and beat Arkansas, cover that number. CJ Carr, Jeremiah Love have a big game against an Arkansas defense that has tended to give up some big plays every now and then this season. The second play there is South Carolina team total over 25.5 points. Gamecocks have scored, I think on average, 17.5 points the last 5 games under their new OC, Mike Shula. He needs to start lighting it up. You got Lenora Sellers. You've got Nick Harbor, who runs a 4.35. You got to get that guy to football. Staying in that game, South Carolina -5.5. I'm going to go ahead and call South Carolina beating Kentucky by a couple touchdowns since I have 2 plays in this game. And then last parlay for me, Georgia money line. That's the one I feel least confident about. But when you're 3-1 on parlays, you just play the gut. So there it is for me, Notre Dame -4. 2 plays on the South Carolina game, and Georgia money line at plus 662. Now, Emory's head-turning 16 play. I've got to hear this. I'm going to give you the rest of the show, Emory, to discuss this 6-teamer you have, man.
I won't need the rest of the show. I get it done quickly. Let's start with the FCS football, guys. When you follow FCS football, there's some value there. Listen to me now, believe me later on. Start with Delaware State, laying the 6.5 points against Sacred Heart. How about this? Deshaun Jackson, former NFL star, future Hall of Famer, has the #1 rushing team in the FCS, averaging 285 yards rushing a game. They're 3-1 on the season. I think they go to 4-1 after they knock out Sacred Heart. We also have Jackson State laying the 14.5 points against Southern. Jackson State is the best HBCU team in both conferences right now, in the MEAC and SWAC. They're going to trounce Southern in this ball game. And you also look at another HBCU matchup, Alabama A&M, who played a little bit well early in the game against Arkansas. They have a really good quarterback in Cornelius Brown. He's 6'5", 210, 5 touchdown passes, no intercepts on the season. And Coach Sam Shade, former NFL player, is doing a great job down there in Huntsville. Laid these points with Alabama A&M against Bethune-Cookman to 7.5 points. Also, Brown and Harvard. Brown blew out Georgetown surprisingly last week, 46-0. Harvard is the best team in the Ivy League. They beat up Stetson last week, 59-7. So those points tells me this total of 55.5 definitely is going over, and Harvard has an NFL quarterback prospect. And Jaden Craig, you want to keep an eye on. He's a true dual threat as well. West Georgia is the surprise of the FCS. They're undefeated right now. They take their first real road test. They go to Southern Utah. Now is the best time to go to Utah because it ain't cold out there. It ain't snowing. These Georgia boys should be fine. They'll beat Southern Utah in this ball game. And we already talked about how Rhode Island will go to Kalamazoo and make light work of Western Michigan. So that's plus 853. Now, I'm not going to tell y'all I won the parlay, but if you see me pull up in that cinnamon Range Rover with the raspberry interior, that's how you know I won this parlay. Thank me later.
I think the hard thing about this part, Emory, is where can you find these 6 games to play? Like which book is gonna, offer all these games?
FanDuel.
Man, that would be insane if you hit this 6-teamer. Cardale, I'm gonna come to you, man. What's your parlay of the week?
Emery, you know what? I'm gonna piggyback on that parlay outside this show. So I'm not gonna tell nobody how much I put on or how much I won, but it will be signs. But anyway, I have Florida State covering at Virginia at -6.5. I got Kansas -4.5, and I got Memphis -13.5. It's a plus 591, guys. I'm gonna keep it easy, short, and sweet. I'm not that talented in sports betting as these two guys right here, but you look at these three teams, you look at their track record versus the spreads. I like them all. So nice, short, easy, and sweet. And I may not have enough to buy that cinnamon Range Rover, but we can go out to dinner a few times next week.
Hey, I don't have any issues with you going chalk with 3 favorites. I have won parlays this season going with favorites, and I like that parlay. I'm gonna tell that one too, Cardell. Before we wrap up, fellas, I want to mention one off the radar game Saturday night. Number 25, BYU at Colorado. Maybe that's a spot where BYU loses on the road, only a 6.5 point favorite. Emory, you have any thoughts on that one, especially after Caden Salter maybe has won that job now at quarterback after having that 300-yard game last week?
It's the fact that he won the job in the way he did, and this history now between Colorado and BYU. I expect them to try to make a statement against BYU. I think they'll take this game personally based on what happened last year in the Alamo Bowl.
I like that too. Cardell, you got any thoughts on the Buffaloes maybe winning this game and getting back on track under Coach Prime?
Yeah, I got BYU in this situation, guys. I got on the flip side. I got BYU saying and showing them, listen, I'm gonna show y'all what it's really like to be in the Big 12, just like how we did last year. And then trying to figure out the quarterback situation over the first 4 weeks of the season, and now I'm getting ready versus a really good BYU team. I don't think you get back on track this week. I got BYU covering this one.
So we're split there. BYU last week at East Carolina, they were a small favorite, and they blew out a Pirates team that Thursday night, blew out Army. Army's a team from the American that I'm actually surprised that they're lagging behind the American right now, fellas, in the G5. Probably the winner of that conference is going to get to the playoff. You look at so many good teams there, Tulane, Navy, you've got USF, you've got Memphis after they beat Arkansas last week. Emory, if you have a futures play, hate to put you on the spot here, from the American, who do you take to win that league?
Memphis. I think Memphis will win it. I like Navy, but Navy ain't playing defense like they did last year. And they've been in a lot of tight games. I don't like that for Navy. I like what I saw from Memphis last week, albeit they got lucky.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us this week on the CBS Sports College Football Prediction Show. For my guys, Emory Hunt and Cardale Jones, I'm Brad Crawford. Good luck with your picks, and we will see you next week.